30. And whoever has it first, if you could read the entire chapter. I'm getting there myself. Anybody have it already?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Numbers 30. And Moshe spake unto the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Yasharel, saying, This is the thing which Yahuwah hath commanded. If a man vow a vow unto Yahuwah, or swear an oath to bind his soul with the bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. If a woman also vow a vow unto Yahuwah, and bind herself by a bond, being in her father's house in her youth, and her father hear her vow, and her bond wherewith she hath bound her soul, and her father shall hold his peace at her, then all her vows shall stand, and every bond wherewith she hath bound her soul shall stand. But if her father disallow her in the day that he heareth, not any of her vows, or of her bonds wherewith she hath bound her soul shall stand. And Yahuwah shall forgive her, because her father disallowed her. And if she had at all a husband, when she vowed or uttered aught out of her lips, wherewith she bound her soul, and her husband heard it, and held his peace at her in the day that he heard it, then her vow shall stand, and her bonds wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. But if her husband disallowed her on the day that he heard it, then he shall make her vow which she vowed, that which she uttered with her lips, wherewith she bound her soul, of none effect, and Yahuwah shall forgive her. But every vow of a widow, of her that is divorced, wherewith they have bound their souls, shall stand against her. And if she vowed in her husband's house, or bound her soul by a bond with an oath, and her husband heard it, and held his peace at her, and disallowed her not, then all her vows shall stand, and every bond wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. But if her husband had utterly made them void on the day he heard them, then whatsoever proceedeth out her lips concerning her vows, or concerning the bond of her soul, shall not stand. Her husband made them void, and Yahuwah shall forgive her. Every vow, every binding oath to afflict the soul, her husband shall establish it, or her husband may make it void. But if her husband altogether hold his peace at her from day to day, when he establishes all her vows or all her bonds which are upon her, he confirmeth them, because he held his peace at her in the day that he heard them. But if he shall any ways make them void after that he hath heard them, then he shall bear her iniquity. These are the statutes which Yahuwah commanded Moshe, between a man and his wife, between the father and his daughter, being yet in youth, in her father's house.
Hallelujah. That was a lot there. So we'll probably, for today, we'll only get to either verses 1 and 2 or all the way down to 3 and 4. So I gave everybody homework, and I asked you all to write a paragraph of why Numbers 30 is important to you. Anybody would like to go first? Yes, ma'am, RTC.
You're on CC.
I was wondering why you weren't answering me. I didn't write. It's like I wrote a sentence. I just felt that if you make a promise or a vow to the Most High, you have to honor that promise at any cost. So it's like, even like where I'm going through now, just to say I'm fasting. And I don't know why this time I tried to fast and I just can't. Mm-hmm. And I made a vow that I was going to do this fast and a certain fast. So Numbers 30 was like right on time. It was like punching me in the face. So.
Yes, ma'am. Hallelujah. Next up.
All right. So, I wrote out some stuff. I had a conversation with myself. So, in having a conversation with myself, y'all know I got precepts in here, but it was a conversation with myself. So I said, when I think of Numbers 30, I think on the importance of being sober-minded and not careless with my words. And I wrote, for that, I had Matthew 12, verses 36 through 37. So bear with me. My paragraph is going to be a stop and go, Achoti Avia, but you know,
that's all right. We know how you roll.
Okay, bless you. I'll repeat it again. So Matthew 12, verses 36 through 37 is where I connected what I said with the word. So I said, I think on the importance of being sober-minded and not careless with my words. And in Matthew chapter 12, verses 36 through 37, it says, but I say unto you that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment. For by your words you shall be justified, and by your words you shall be condemned. So then after I said, okay, I need to understand the importance of being sober-minded and not careless with my words, I said, but most importantly, it's a very real reminder of the blessing and favor that we have when we are covered. That our Adons are our shield and our protection. However, it also makes me want to be the best Isha possible and not ever put my Adon in a position where he has to cancel my vow and take on my iniquity. It also emphasizes that, you know, in Numbers 30, it emphasizes that words matter and we should choose them wisely. So that is what I wrote.
Beautiful.
The only.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess like mother, like daughter, because that's so crazy. I put verses in my too. But I wrote on my phone. Numbers 30 is important to me in two ways. One being because it is a true example of Proverbs 18:21. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it is fruit thereof. Numbers helps me to be cautious and think before saying, I can't hear myself. All right. Numbers helps me to be cautious and think before saying, I'm going to do something or doing something before consulting my head. The other half of Numbers 30 that is important to me is verse 15. If, however, he nullifies them sometime after he hears about them, then he must bear the consequences of her wrongdoing. Understanding my actions have an effect on another, whether I take it on my own or my head takes it for me. Ezekiel 3:18 through 19 says, when I say unto the wicked that, hold on, let me get the actual verse. All right. Ezekiel 3:18 through 19 reads, and I, sorry y'all. This Bible playing with me today. All right. When I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not a warning, nor speakest to warn the wicked from his wicked ways, to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. If thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, from his wicked way, he shall die in iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. And so this is kind of the opposite here, that when your head warns you or gives you that notification, he takes on that burden. Whereas, if he doesn't say anything, you take on that iniquity. Overall, this chapter made me just think about myself and others, but also my covering. It makes me more thankful for the things I have not said or been told to be quiet on, because it prevented me and him from having blood on our hands. That's all it said.
Hallelujah. That was beautiful said. For me and Numbers 30 go way back. I remember the first time my Don spoke about Numbers 30 to me. And it was like a aha moment, because I never seen that in the word. Like, nothing, told me to go to Numbers 30 until my Adon himself took me there. And we really had a drawn out Bible study. It wasn't like a long one day. It was, throughout time, where we would just see Numbers 30 in everything. And we would just, keep going back to Numbers 30. And we saw how important Numbers 30 is, because it truly outlines the order of a wife, the order of your Adon, the order of Yah, how Abba Yah wants his daughter of Sarah to be protected from cradle to grave, from their father's house to their Adon's home, and not in between, like how the world has it, like they have boyfriends and all this and that. Abba Yah never wanted that for us. He wanted us to be protected from day one. And it shows the authority, like you all were saying, that our Adons have, as well as our fathers. And I didn't realize how much authority my dad had over me until I read Numbers 30. And reading Numbers 30, I respected my dad more and my Adon more, because then I started to understand, okay, I see why he says, no, don't say that. Because at first I didn't know why until I read Numbers 30. And then, like you all were saying about that they take the lashes, that touched my heart, because now that he knows now that he will be taking on my iniquity. So it further shows me how to be careful with what I say, how I feel, and my actions, because we all want our Adons to make it to New Jerusalem. And I want to do everything in my power to not lessen his chances to making it into New Jerusalem. However, our Adons are willing to sacrifice them not making it just so that we can make it. And the verse that really stood out to me in Numbers 30 is verse 16, the end, where it says, "These are the laws which Yahuwah commanded Moshe between a man and his wife, and between a father and his daughter, and her youth and her father's house." And the fact that it's a commandment from Abba Yah himself says a lot too, and that Moshe himself is the ones who spoke to the heads of the home first, and then it trickled down to us. So
wait, can I say something? Mm-hmm. Please, because my heart is racing. Like, why didn't I read everything that y'all read verbatim, and what you were saying is written, but why didn't I view it the same way that all three of y'all viewed it? Why? And now, since y'all talking about your Adon in your head, is it because I'm not there? I don't know how to be there? Because I look at it saying, I took it as a vow to the Most High. And I'm only trying to be honest where I'm at, because as y'all talking, it's like my heart is just keep dropping. So even little Nia, see it this that, well, not little Nia, but you're little Nia right now in here. She see it the way that you to see it. And like I said, I know what I read, but I need help.
Yes, ma'am. And please definitely be open and candid as you want. There's no time limit. There's no rush. And we definitely want to answer all of your questions as best as we can. But for me, Auntie C, I didn't see it right away. Honestly, when I first read Numbers 30, I didn't want to accept it wholeheartedly because of the authority that they do have. It was hard for me to accept Genesis 3. And once I accepted that, and then reading Numbers 30, that took on a whole another level of authority and the obedience part on our end. So I did struggle with Numbers 30, with the canceling of the vows, just knowing that they can do that. But I had to keep reading it and reading it and reading it and going to the Father and praying, for understanding. And also, we've been studying this for a long time. It's not just today. I just got it. Like we've been studying it for a while. So I've been where you are. You're not alone, to feel how you feel, because I was there. Yes, ma'am. Does anybody else want to add to that?
I'll go after Achoti Nia. She has her hand raised.
Okay. I was just going to say, you're not wrong in your understanding. Because your understanding is a vow to the Most High. Yes, that's true. We're not making a vow to our husbands. We're not making a vow to, I'm not making a vow to my head. Let's go to, I was reading it. Let's go to verse, yeah, give it back to me. Wow. Let's read 12 through 14. Maybe it's in there. It says, but if her husband have utterly made them void on the day he heard them, then whatsoever proceeded about her lips concerning her vows or concerning the bonds of her soul shall not stand. Her husband have made them void, and Yahuwah shall forgive her. Every vow, okay, verse 13 is what I'm looking for. Every vow and every binding oath to afflict her soul, her husband may establish it, or her husband may make it void. So, for example, here's the perfect example. You said you've been trying to fast, right? Another word for affliction that, some of us have agreed upon is fasting or humbling ourselves before the Most High, right? So, say you did say you wanted to fast today, and Brother Yehuda heard it. Say you said that on Shabbat, that you wanted to fast for first day. But Yehuda heard it on Saturday, but you didn't end up fasting. Okay? Or you're like, on like Saturday, you're like, I'm feeling sick. I don't know if I can fast or whatever. Brother Yehuda can disallow it or say, Abba Yah, my wife was going to consecrate her flesh for you, but she's not feeling well. Or she was going to consecrate for you and she's not able to do it. Please forgive her. That's him disallowing what you had said that you were going to do. And now you don't have to bear your promise or your vow to the Most High because he heard it and he disallowed it. So basically it's like Brother Benayah talks about, it's a hedge of protection before you have to deal with the Most High. Now, Brother Yehuda heard you say that and didn't disallow it, and you end up not fasting, you have to deal with the Most High on that. That's between you and the Most High now. But the chapter is just basically about, let me protect you from the words you say by your covering. So if I want to fast now, Auntie C, I tell my dad, just in case, so he knows, like, hey, Nia, you said you were going to fast on Monday. Are you fasting? Or making sure I'm not breaking a vow to the Most High. It was always going to be given to him, but sometimes our flesh fails whatever we're doing or giving to him. I hope that kind of makes sense. It has nothing really to do with making a vow to our heads, but rather than being that intercessor for us between Yah when we fail in those things we say.
That makes sense. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I don't want to go too far in it because I want to wait. I want to hear Avia's. I know she got something that she's going to bring, but I would like to hear what Ima had to say as well. Thank you, Mia.
Yes, ma'am. So what I was going to say, I just want to make sure I'm hearing your question, so I want to answer it. I want to answer what you're saying if I'm thinking correctly. Hey, you guys immediately went to understanding the hedge of protection and the importance of your Adons and the covering because they can cancel vows. I immediately focused on the importance of being careful of the vow I make to the Most High, right? And you're saying, why did I not get that? Why is there a disconnect? Is that, I just want to make sure that's how I heard what you said. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the guilt, because of even with the tongue, the words that we say out our mouth, and I'm just recovering from that.
Yes, ma'am. So one of the things that to con with Achoti, Avia, and Nia, on a couple of things. One, the grace of time. You are, and we all are learning how to better function as daughters of Zion in the function put us in, my daughter, Isha. So one of the things that it's not a bad thing that the first thing you think of is, I got to be careful about the vows I make to the Most High. Why? Because ultimately he's our father. He's our covering. And then we have our fathers and then we have our Adons. But I want to bring our attention to verse 9. Verse 9 says, but every vow of a widow and of her that is divorced, wherewith they have bound their soul, shall stand against her. So it is important, even in Numbers 30, to think about all those things, to think about it for those who now have covering, whether it's a father or it's a Adon, praise Yah for that covering. But if I'm a widow or if I'm divorced, and I don't have that hedge of protection, Yah's still my hedge of protection, I still should be sober-minded and thinking about how what I say and the vows I make to Yah, I'm still going to be held to that standard. So in terms of, well, you guys got it right away, and I didn't click in it. You're still growing in your function as a Isha, as we all are. And where we may have clicked on this, there's something that you may click on that we haven't gotten there yet. Our level of growth and maturity is different in different things. And so it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing that you're righteously recognizing, like, hey, I was thinking this way, and you're measuring yourself against Yah. So don't feel guilty. If anything, praise God, because you're making a connection. Now that you've made that connection, it's going to make you even more mindful going forward in appreciation to Yah and his covering, and appreciation to your Adon and his covering. And so, there's times me and Nia get in the word, and there's something that goes over my head that Nia gets just like that. And maybe that's because she's had the experience quicker than I did in a certain area, or she may have just gone through something and she connects with it. And it's just an area that Yah is trying to grow me all the more. So we're all at different stages in our walk, in our understanding of Yah's word. And like Achoti and Via said, they talked about Numbers 30 longer than I've talked about Numbers 30. You see what I'm saying? So her level of connection on certain things is going to be like, boom, where my level of connection on other things may be the same. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that gives you some relief. There's nothing to feel guilty about. If anything, Yah's just expanding your righteous understanding. Because where you started off was with him first. And then you're now saying, hey, now that I've connected with Abba Yah, I now need to connect even the more with the Adon that he's put over me, and seeing that double hedge that we got. Praise Yah. Hope that helped.
All right. Thank you.
So that Ima for that. And I did want to elaborate, definitely don't feel guilty. Because like Ima said, there's a ton of things I don't understand, and I'll have to sometimes take weeks to study, or I won't get it until I see it visually. Like if I'm doing something, if I'm gardening, I can relate it to gardening, or, whatever the case may be. In this instance, I understood Numbers 30 because this is the area where I struggled with, and I overcame it. So I have an understanding of Numbers 30 because I'm walking it, and you'll get there too, Auntie C, and Halal that you're on, the call today. So this study was definitely needed for Yah's timing and His goodness. Halal Yah.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to start with verse 1 in Numbers 30, but not the entire verse just yet, because I wanted to bring out why Moshe was the one in charge to speak, because it says, and Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes. So why did Abiyah choose Moshe to begin with? If you can turn to Exodus 3, and whoever gets there faster, or the first one to get there, can you read the entire chapter, please?
Sure, I'll read it.
Yes, ma'am.
Exodus chapter 3. It says, now Moshe kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of Elohim in Chorah. And the angel of Yahuwah appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a thorn bush. And he looked, and behold, the thorn bush burned with fire, and the thorn bush was not consumed. And Moshe said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, while the thorn bush is not burnt. And when Yahuwah saw that he turned aside to see Elohim, called unto him out of the midst of the thorn bush, and said, Moshe, Moshe. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw nigh hither, put off your shoes from off your feet, for the place on whereon you stand is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am Elohai of your father, the Elohai of Abraham, the Elohai of Isaac, and the Elohai of Jacob. And Moshe hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon Elohim. And Yahuwah said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Mizraim, and have heard of their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of Mizraim, and to bring them up out of the land unto a good land, and a large land, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of Canaan, and Chittim, and the Emerim, and the Pezarim, and the Chiviim, and the Ukavim. Now, therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Yashrael is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Mizraim oppressed them. Come now, therefore, and I will send you unto Pharaoh, that you may bring forth my people, the children of Yashrael, out of Mizraim. And Moshe said unto Elohim, Who am I, that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Yashrael out of Mizraim? And he said, Certainly I will be with you, and that shall be a sign unto you that I have sent you. When you have brought forth the people out of Mizraim, you shall serve Elohim upon this mountain. And Moshe said unto Elohim, Behold, when I come unto the children of Yashrael, and shall say unto them, The Elohai of your fathers has sent me unto you, and they shall say unto me, What is his name? What shall I say unto them? And Elohim said unto El Moshe, Ayah Asher Ayah, I am. And he said, Thus shall you say unto the children of Yashrael, Ahai has sent me unto you. And Elohim said moreover unto El Moshe, Thus shall you say unto the children of Yashrael, Yahuwah Elohai of your father, the Elohai of Abraham, the Elohai of Isaac, the Elohai of Jacob, has sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my mention unto all generations. Go and gather the elders of Yashrael together, and say unto them, Yahuwah Elohai of your fathers, the Elohai of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, appeared unto me, saying, I have surely visited you, and seen that which is done to you in Mizraim, and I have said I will bring you up out of the affliction of Mizraim unto the land of Canaan, and Chittim, and Emerim, and Pezarim, and Chiviim, and Ukavim, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall hearken to your voice, and shall come to you, and the elders of Yashrael, unto the king of Mizraim, and ye shall say unto him, Yahuwah Elohai of the Ephraim has met us. And now let us go, we beseech you, these days journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to Yahuwah Eloheinu. And I am sure that the king of Mizraim will not let you go, no, not by a mighty hand. And I will stretch out my hand and smite Mizraim with all my wonders, which I will do in the midst thereof. And after that, he will let you go. And I will give the people favor in the sight of Mizraim. And it shall come to pass that when ye go, you shall not go empty. But every woman shall borrow of her neighbor and of her that sojourns in her house jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. And ye shall put them upon your sons and upon your daughters. And ye shall spoil the Mizraim.
Hallelujah. And I wanted to bring that out to give a little backstory about Moshe and his task for us to free us. And so now we're in Numbers 30, where he's giving another command from the Most High. So we already have the 10 commandments, and now we have Numbers 30. Does anybody want to add on to that or have any precepts for that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So back to Numbers 30, verse 1. And Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Israel, saying, this is the word which Yahuwah has commanded. And again, we know that this is a command from Abiyah. And I wanted to bring out that he speaks to the men, the heads of tribes first. And for that, I have 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. And I'm getting there now. And it says, and I wish you to know that the head of every man is the Messiah, and the head of woman is the man, and the head of Messiah is Elohim. Did anybody have any, Hallelujah. Did anybody have any precepts for Numbers 30, verse 1?
No, ma'am.
Hallelujah. Do you have any questions, Auntie C?
She's on mute, but I think she said no, not right now.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to discuss, since this chapter is talking about vows. Well, actually, let's read verse 2 before we get into that. It says, when a man vows a vow to Yahuwah, or swears an oath to bind himself by some agreement, he does not break his word. He does according to all that comes out of his mouth. And I wanted to discuss the definition of a vow. Does anybody know the definition of a vow or have an idea of what a vow is?
Auntie C's got her hand raised.
A vow is like a promise, like that you have to be committed to.
Yes, ma'am. Hallelujah. Do you have any precepts to back that up?
Yes. You go, Auntie C.
No, my notes are all over, so go ahead and when I find it, then I'll say it. If somebody has it before me.
So, just so for clarification, Achoti, I want to make sure I'm not jumping the gun exactly on what it is that, can you restate your question for me again, Salakia?
No problem at all. What is a vow? And Auntie C gave her definition of a vow, and that's pretty much what I had when I researched. So I asked, do you have a precept to back up what a vow is in the word?
Oh, Nia's got her hand raised.
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't have anything, Mom?
What I had was, it's not the definition of the vow. So go ahead. I don't think.
Well, I touch and agree with Sister Avia and Auntie C on the definition. Ecclesiastes 5:4
Okay, I did have that. Okay, hallelujah. I just didn't know if that was what she was looking for. Toda Nia Khan.
Basically what Auntie C was saying, like, it's a vow or a promise to make sure that, and it must be paid or it must be done. Ecclesiastes 5:4. When thou vowest a vow unto Yahuwah, defer not to pay it, for he hath no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. And then another definition, to give, consecrate, or dedicate to Yahuwah by a solemn promise. This is found in Genesis 28:20. And Yaakov vowed a vow, saying, if Yah will be with me, and will keep me in his way, that I go, and will give me bread to eat, and raiment to put on. Sorry, y'all, I just lost the rest of it. Genesis 28:20. Okay. So that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall Yahuwah be my Elohim. So those are the two that go with that definition. I had it later on, but since you asked it, I need to bring it out.
I do then, based on getting clarification, understanding, I do have some verses, Achoti, for your question. Okay. To touch and agree with what you all have said. I also would like to this goes again with Ecclesiastes 5:4-7 that Nia just brought out. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verses 21-23. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verses 21-23. And I had wrote here, don't delay in fulfilling a vow that you make to Yah. And it reads, when you shall vow a vow unto Yahuwah Eloheka, you shall not slack to pay it. For Yahuwah Eloheka will surely require it of you, and it will be a sin in you. But if you shall forbear to vow, it shall be no sin in you. That which is gone out of your lips, you shall guard and perform, even a freewill offering, according as you have vowed unto Yahuwah Eloheka, which you have promised with your mouth. So, like I said, this is a kind of a precept that can go with that Ecclesiastes 5:47. But I also had some verses in Psalm and one in Job that go with that, again, explaining don't be slack with the vow, understanding that, basically a vow is a commitment or a promise to Yah. And if you don't perform it, it is considered a sin. Do you want me to bring those out now or you want me to hold up?
No, go ahead, please. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to correct something you said, Ecclesiastes 5:47.
Chapter 5, verses 4-7.
Okay.
Yeah, I was probably talking too fast. Salakia. My words are probably running together. So Salakia, Nia. Toda. All right. So we're going to go to Psalms. And the first one is in Psalms 50:14. And then we'll go to 56:12. Then I have 61:8. And then 76:11. And I'm going to repeat that. Psalms 50, verse 14. Psalms 56, verse 12. Psalm 76:11. Psalm 61:8. And then I have the last one is Job 22:27.
I have that one too.
Hallelujah. So 50:14 says, offer unto Elohim thanksgiving and pay your vows unto El Elyon. So again, just saying, if you're going to do this thing, it's a commitment. It's a covenant with Yah. And then 56:12 is actually Yah. And this one I have for later. So we can skip 56:12. That's for a different thing. So skip that because that's Yah making about us. 76:11. Yeah. Vow and pay unto Yahuwah Elohim Let all that be round about him bring presents, and unto him that ought to be feared. So again, just another emphasis on that he's pretty serious about us doing his vows. I think I skipped 61:8. And this was one that I really highlighted because it talked about daily. It says, so I will sing praise unto your name forever, and I may daily perform my vows. And, I even think about that with, a ketubah. There's commitments and things that I committed to and vowed to in my ketubah with Moshe. And some of those things I daily perform. So that daily vow in 61:8. And then the last one tied to kind of like understanding, especially what you're doing with a vow unto Yahuwah, was Job 22, verse 27. And like Auntie C said too, you shall make your prayer unto him, and he shall hear you, and you shall pay your vows. And I'll read 28. You shall also decree a thing, and it will be established unto you, and the light shall shine upon your ways. So again, just the seriousness of what a vow is, and that it's not to be taken lightly. Hallelujah.
I have one more because to go with Nia's Genesis 28:20. I have Genesis 31:13. I am Elohim, Bethel, where you anointed the pillar and where you vowed a vow unto me. Now arise and get you out from this land and return unto the land of your kindred.
Achoti.
Hello, yeah.
Hello.
And I'm going to read the full definition of a vow because we pretty much said it, but I want to read it all together. It says, a vow is a solemn promise or commitment made to Elohim involving a specific pledge or dedication, often accompanied by an oath or solemn declaration and requiring faithfulness and obedience to fulfill. Hallelujah. Now, did anybody have anything as far as, let's see, swearing? Did anybody look up the definition for swearing and pulled out any precepts for that?
I had one precept for that verse too, where it talks about swearing. I mean, it talks about don't, what does it say? Let me not ad-lib. If a man vow to you or swear an oath, the part that I focused on was swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you swear to something, you're like, it's almost like, how we say con, like we're in agreement with each other, right? That's what swearing is. It's like con. It's affirming something. And so it's, like there's this one guy that Moshe listens to sometimes, and he talks about how the guy, he's like, I don't know why this guy does that, but he'll say stuff like, I swear on my mama, or I swear on my children. So it's almost like placing a bet and saying, I'm doubling down. I'm affirming this. You know what I'm saying? I'm making this solemn statement and I'm affirming this. And it's just like, so to that point, for that verse 2 and swearing, because it says a vow is not just words, but binding of the soul. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 23. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 23. Because, it talked about binding of the soul. And we even talked about this a little bit. I don't know if Achoti V or you or Nia remember when we were talking about soul ties. And we talked about one of the soul ties is people making vows. That you can bind your soul to somebody by making a vow. I'll never leave you. Whoa, 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 whoa. You know what I mean? Like, let's be careful with that. So, 1 Thessalonians 5:23 reads, and if and the very Elohim, Shalom, sanctify you wholly. And I pray to Elohim that your whole Ruach and soul and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of our Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. And so there it talks about our body, our ruach, but also our soul being blameless. And, it goes back to Numbers 30, that someone's got to bear the iniquity if that vow is not performed, or whatnot. And so we want our souls to be blameless. And so when you were talking about that swearing, we got to be careful with that, because we're binding our soul, and then we may not be seen blameless before Abba Yah.
Hello, yeah. I wanted to bring Exodus chapter 20, verse 7, when you were talking about when people swear to things, especially to Elohim.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, you do not bring the name of Yahuwah, your Elohim, to naught, for Yahuwah does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught.
Wow, yeah.
Wow, yeah. Did anybody else have anything regarding swearing? All right. Let's go down to oath. Does anybody have definition for oath and precepts for the term oath?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
An oath is a declaration made, and I put understanding the order. There's no. Oh, okay. 1 second. I had Luke 23, verse 34 for it, and then I'll give you my definition as to why I'm getting there.
Okay.
Luke 23.
34. 23, 34.
34.
So it's an affirmation or declaration that I had for that. And then let's see what this says. Then said Yahushua, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they parted his raiment and cast lots. And I really wanted to bring this out because this is an example of a whole Numbers 30. But also, we said that during that time, give up Yahushua, his blood can be in our children's hands. And not only were we making a vow, but we were making an oath. We were making a declaration for this to come forth. And the Most High appealed it on our behalf, because he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they parted his raiment and cast lots. So he was acting as, that high priest, that Abba, that protector. But that's what I really take oath as, like, if I declare something to be known. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And just to give the verse Nia was talking about, because that's, I don't want us to skip too quickly over that, because that's powerful in and of itself. Just like in that verse 15 where our Adons take on our burden, that's what Yeshua did for all of Yisrael. And, just like she just mentioned in Luke 23, and it's even in Matthew 27:25, where they're, Pontius Pilate puts his hands in the water, washes his hands and says, blood's not on my hands. And they're like, blood be upon us. And then in that same chapter that Nia took us to, Luke 23, you go to verse 34. That is where Abba Yah cancels the vow. When he says, then said Yahushua, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they parted raiment and cast lots. That was, like she said, it was the cancel. And that's huge. I never made that connection that was what Yah was doing, was he was canceling our vow, until such time as I sat down with my Adon and we went through Numbers 30. And I was like, dang, so, it's such a blessing in so many ways, because we are able to be in this righteous walk and have the hope of eternity, because Yah canceled a vow. You know what I mean? So praise Yah, for that. I had one in Joshua, Achoti. You asked about, it talks about swearing and oaths.
Okay.
Joshua chapter 9, verse 19 through 20. And I know we've all talked about this story because it's come up on a Shabbat. This is the one where the people pretended that they were really far off from Israel because Israel was kicking everybody's butt. And they were like, hey, we're their neighbors. They can take us out. So we going to look like we came off from really far off. We're going to put on sackcloth and we going to wait till our bread molded. And we going to basically be like, well, we so from far away, make this commitment with us. And then when Yashrael realized that they had sworn this oath, they had to fulfill it. One, they didn't check with Abiyah first. And I like what Nia said, that, hey, when she fasts now, she checks with her head. Because she's like, I just want you to be aware, so that if I misstep, that I'm covered or whatnot. But in Joshua 19, it says, but all the princes said unto the assembly, we have sworn unto them by Yahuwah Elohai of Yashrael. They swore to them on Yah's name. How people say, oh, my mama name. They swore to them on Yahuwah's name. And now, therefore, we may not touch them. This we will do to them. We will even let them live, lest wrath be upon us because of the oath which we swore unto them. So they oathing and swearing. You know what I mean? So,
Anybody else? RTC? No. So I have the definition. An oath is a solemn binding promise or declaration made in Elohim's name or invoking his authority to attest the truth, confirm a commitment or guarantee, the fulfillment of a promise or obligation.
That invoking authority. I just think about that on so many levels, how you have to be really careful with that. You think about a child with a sibling where they come back and say, well, mom said, blah, blah, blah. They're invoking that authority. And once again, we have an authority over us in Yah, and we have those of us who are covered have authority over our dons. And I'm even I even step back to myself, and I have to. This is one example for you on TC where I'm still growing in an area, right? So Moshe and I've been married for over 21 years, but the dynamics of our marriage changed less than 5 years ago. And so sometimes I'm used to, in the old way, where I can just kind of do certain things and things like that I have to stop myself and say, no, I need to check with my Adon, or I need to ask him this before I move forward. And helping to understand that authority over me in that regard, because it may be a good intention of what I'm doing, but my head has the full picture of how he wants something done, and I could be causing a ripple and not even know it. So I need to go to my authority and check with him. And my authority, just like Yah has given us authority to tread on serpents and things like that, it's not that my head doesn't give me authority to handle certain things, but ultimately he is the authority. And sometimes I have to remind myself or slow myself down to say, oh, before I just make this quick decision, because he may not want me to do it that way. It's not that the way I was going to do it would have been a bad thing, but it's not the way he wanted me to do it. And so, even in that's something I'm unlearning to relearn, and how to function in that, even at this stage. So that
also, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying that invoking it really, it resonated with me for that reason.
And when you brought that up, it made me think of like a hasty promise. Like, even if I made it to my granddaughter, just because I made it a hasty decision, like I tried to say, we'll see. If I say yeah, like she'll say, can we go to the park or something? And I said it in haste. But if she keeps bringing it up, it's like I want to quiet her because of something that a decision that I made, you know, in haste. And just because I made it in haste doesn't mean that because I didn't think it through, I didn't have to keep that promise.
Yes, ma'am.
I gotta be careful about what I say and how I say it out of haste, because I'm one that always, I don't think a lot before I speak. I'll just say whatever is on my mind, because that was what I was used to doing in an environment that I was in for so long. And it's like, you don't have to care about what you say. That was just how I used to be. So it's really hard for me now that I have to watch what I say. And I have somebody, and I'm like, I've been doing this for a long time. So it's like I try, but I pass, but a lot of times I don't pass. And that's something that I just recently didn't pass. Like I fell, and it's just, you know, all praises to the Most High that we're studying this, because I'm taking this personal.
Oh, yeah.
Hallelujah. Yes, ma'am, Achoti.
Two things. One, I just noticed we're all wearing glasses, period.
Okay.
But two, another thing, like, I seen this thing on TikTok talking about generational curses and like things we didn't know were generational curses. Like, oh, we don't got enough money for McDonald's, so you got McDonald's money, or blah, 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 or things like that. Things that we want to think about. But now talking about a vow, when a parent or a friend or a grandparent tells somebody else, oh, give me a minute, or I'll be here in 1 minute, or let's wait 5 minutes. And those 5 minutes will be like an hour, or a minute will be like 10 minutes. And so it's like now, yes, we have to be careful of our words, even in the promises of, hey, give me 10 minutes. I'm looking at the clock like, okay, 10 minutes, we hitting 11 now, because you told me
right,
you would be here, or you would do this in 10 minutes. And it's not so. So that to me is very little, but at the same time now reading this, it's so big. Like if I'm gonna be there in 10 minutes, I'm gonna be there. You know, and that's another joke in our community. Oh, you know, her 10 minutes means actually our Black people time. But you know, it's something you said you were gonna do, and you shouldn't break that. So I just wanted to bring that out. Oh yeah.
Hello, yeah.
If Auntie C made a good point about the rash vow, and you know, Ania even emphasizing, hey, even something small can be of great importance. I have a story in the Bible, and I wanted to ask, is it okay, or that can wait till later? But it's an example of a rash vow and how it cost somebody dearly.
Can you hold off on that after we define binding? Because the next couple of verses, I definitely got some stories, so that'll be a great time to bring yours out. Yes, ma'am. Yes. But I do want to add that I love the points that were made. Because Achoti, I didn't think about just the little things that we can say that is a vow, because we have grown up to say those type of things, or that's just how or what we say. So I would definitely be cautious of even the little things that come out of my mouth. And now, like, really studying Numbers 30 with my Achotis, it's going to make me truly, like Auntie C said, like truly think about what you say before you say them, and not just say it because, one, you may be in a rush or whatever have you, because it may jeopardize you in the end, or you're done. Because one of y'all, either he is going to take the lash or you have to fulfill that promise. Either way. Hello, y'all. So let's talk about binding. Did anybody look up the word binding, and or do you have any precepts for that? I'll go with the definition that I found. To bind biblically means to obligate, commit, or dedicate oneself to a promise, covenant, or obligation, often with a sense of responsibility, accountability, or constraint. And also, to continue, it can be used in various ways, such as binding oneself to a promise or oath, entering into a covenant or agreement, dedication or consecration to Elohim service, being bound by a vow or obligation. Does anyone have any precepts for that, thoughts, or further definition?
There's only one that I could think of, and it's the one that talks about whatever you bind on earth is also bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth is also loosed in heaven. I think that's Matthew. I think you can find it in Matthew 16:19 and Matthew 18:18. But that they're basically saying the same thing, that whatever you bind on earth is also bound in Shemayim, and whatever you loose on earth is also loose in Shemayim.
Yes, ma'am. I don't have the precept for this, but my Adon would, always tell me to be careful to sign agreements with them. And I forgot what verse that is, but we did go over the verse. And we have to be careful because most of our agreements are with the heathens. So we're agreeing to whatever their terms and conditions are, and they're usually something in there is not of Yah. So just wanted to add that. Hello, Yah.
Salakia. Could it be something like their wedding vows that you speak when you get married? The pagan what?
Pagan or Hebrew Israelite way, because we're still vowing a vow, we're still uttering our lips, we're still agreeing to something. And like Ima said, sometimes there's a ketubah involved with that, and you have to sign the documents, whatever it is outlined. So that's a binding agreement. That's a contract, a verbal contract to a binding. So yes, ma'am, definitely. Hello, yeah.